Hopefully you guys are doing wonderfully well. Appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today. Go ahead and drop in the chat, where you're tuning in from. For those of you guys who may not know me, my name is Novello. I've been selling real estate for over 17 years. I'm in Southeast Florida. I personally sold 2,000 properties in my career. 80% of that business is listings sold. I started a coaching company. I did over 100 deals a year, 10 years in a row. I did 200 deals a year twice. 80% of that business listings sold. And I started a coaching company teaching agents how to grow and scale, their real estate business, primarily through listing property in high volume. 100 coaching clients, 30 of them one-on-ones. 12 of those one-on-ones make over $1 million a year. What's up, Casey from Michigan? How you doing? And all that sounds great, in terms of like an intro. What's also true though is if you knew me, if you really knew me, you would know that my first calendar year of selling real estate, I only made $13,000. That's definitely not something people put you on a panel on to talk about. They wouldn't, invite you on their podcast to be like, precisely how did you make below the poverty line? And they certainly wouldn't pay you to teach them how to do that, right? It's like, how's that possible? How does somebody go from making $13,000 their first 12 months in a business, in the same business a decade later, grossing over 7 figures? Well, I got proximity to individuals and I got proximity to knowledge, right? Because knowledge is the real currency. And I believe that we're all one relationship away from changing our family tree for the rest of our life. That has been my experience. I don't know about you guys. My family lived paycheck to paycheck, never made probably more than 50, 60 grand a year. And I've had about 5 relationships in my life that have, and counting, that have radically changed the trajectory of my life. My intention is to be that relationship for as many people as possible. Perhaps that's you. So I didn't know what the way was, but I knew I was either going to find the way or make the way, right? So again, I sought out mentors, coaches, trainers. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own money to get access. And the good news is you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to spend the hundreds of thousands because I did that for you. Now I no longer worry about market conditions for myself or for the clients that we coach, because I know in every single market there's an opportunity. And again, you're one relationship away from getting access to it, right? And I believe that everybody that's on this webinar with the right strategy, the right approach, right, and the right mental maps can accomplish anything that I've done, if not more, in probably less time. Okay. So what I want to do today is I want to spend, maybe the next 30, 40 minutes, maybe a little longer, going over with you an untapped resource in the market. I'm sure a lot of you, what's up, Ilya? How you doing, brother? A lot of you, if you are in the real estate game, you've heard, some of these potential rule changes that are coming down the pipe. I've been talking about them for over the last week with all of our team and everything, doing live streams. I was on Pace Morby's wholesale hotline recently talking about it. When transaction volume goes from 6 million to 4 million in a calendar year, which it did last year, 90% of people who own homes have mortgages that are less than 6%. So it's like, why are they going to sell a property and trade in their 6% mortgage for something that's, a lot higher than that? Well, the only reason they would do it is because they have to, right? So having a source of business that you can go to that is independent of market conditions, right? Independent of what's happening economically, independent of interest rates. That's something that really, if you make it a cornerstone, kind of a bedrock of your business, is a source that allows you to be resilient. And resiliency in business is critically important, right? So what I want to do for the next 30 to 45 minutes is go over with you an untapped resource, right? That helped me to go from 100 deals to 200 deals. It also became 50% of my business. Again, market resistant, right? Independent of market conditions. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go over some of the kind of beliefs that can hinder people from getting involved in this source, right? And my intention is to help you to overcome those so that way you can make this a reliable source of business for you moving forward. And if we have time for it, if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat, as we proceed, right? So the opportunity that I'm talking about is probate and estate sales of real property. Now, why is this such an enormous opportunity? If you're taking notes right now, write this down. The riches are in the niches. The riches are in the niches. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, in residential resale, the very kind of loud voices in the coaching and training world, they talk about what I would call the 4 horsemen. And the 4 horsemen is Expireds, FSBOs, canceleds, COI, just listed, just solds, right? And those are great. They're good sources of business. In fact, at the beginning of my career, I built my business on expired listings. Drop in the chat if you've ever called expired listings before. Okay. And, that was dope. It allowed me to get up to 100 transactions in a calendar year. Well, that was at a time when there was a tremendous amount of expireds. Okay. Foreclosures are very high. Things weren't selling as much. So, there's a lot of expired listings. And now that's not the case, right? There's only a handful, on a daily basis. So I have to fish where the fish are swimming. And if people are going to sell right now, the only ones that are going to sell are the ones that have to. These are the niches that I'm talking about. So what would be some examples of people that have to sell? Well, we would call these as life events, right? Death, divorce, job relocation, moving to assisted living facilities, retirement. These are people that have to do something. Not like it would be nice to sell. No, I have to sell. Okay. Now notice the first one I mentioned is death. Now, why is this such an enormous opportunity? Well, 65% of these homes statistically are free and clear. Okay. What's also true is if they do want to sell, they're highly motivated to sell. Highly, highly motivated. Okay. And it's also what I would call a a blue ocean versus a red ocean. So red oceans they have lots of sharks in the water and they have lots of blood in the water. So examples of red oceans would be, again, those four horsemen: expireds, for sale by owners, canceled, just listed, just sold. And what do I mean by that? There's a lot of agents that are calling them. Okay. Lots of competition, which is fine, because I'm a great white shark. I can push into, red oceans and get my unfair share. I would much prefer, though, to swim in a blue ocean. So what does that mean? Well, there's less sharks in the water and there's less blood in the water. And that's what this particular source is, because it requires a higher level of intellectual intelligence. You have to understand not just the kind of practical component of selling a property and the ancillary services that you can provide for someone who may not be local, or there's a home full of contents and things of that nature. But you also have to intellectually understand the legal aspect of probate in your geographic area. Now, I'm a 100% expert in the state of Florida. What I know to be true is that each state is different. It's not a uniform process. They have different names for different things, and that's fine. The overall kind of gist of the process is very similar. Okay. So it requires higher level of kind of intelligence. The second thing that it requires is emotional intelligence, because it's it's a sensitive time. Somebody's passed away and you're reaching out to try to be of assistance and to help them. So for all of those reasons, I think this is a fantastic opportunity. Now, with the NAR lawsuit and the settlement and the rule changes that are coming down the pipe, as far as buyers needing buyer brokers agreements and having to negotiate a portion, if not all, their fee, having a listing source that you can go to that is a blue ocean, where 65% of the homes are free and clear and the sellers are exceptionally motivated, in my opinion, is critically important moving forward. And again, there's different life events you can choose. I chose this one for various different reasons. Some of them I've just described to you. So what are some of the kind of internal objections that come up, with working with this source? Well, the first one is like, I can't call someone that just died. I can't call these people, right? People are going to get mad at me. They're going to call me names and like that sort of thing. But what I would offer you is this: like, picture this. Picture that you've just had a loved one that passed away, or someone that, you were in close proximity to, and you perhaps live in another state, property's completely full of contents, and you're responsible for clearing out the property and ultimately getting the home sold. On top of this, you have your own life, your own kids, your own significant other, your own job. I mean, ask yourself a question. How incredibly overwhelming would that be? I mean, tremendously, right? Incredibly overwhelming. And then you have someone who reaches out to you and offers solutions to the problems that you're having, such as like, hey, we can give you a very realistic picture of equity that's much more precise than these online kind of estimates of value that you're taking a look at. We can also show you a net sheet what the proceeds would be to you and your family when it all shakes out. We can get you connected with ancillary services such as estate sales, clear outs, handyman work, right? And, to prepare the property to make sure we're maximizing value. I mean, imagine that individual reaches out to you and can offer you all of these solutions to the problems that you're having. How would that make you feel? Drop in the chat how that would make you feel if somebody reached out to you and could help you in that way. What I'm aware of is it's incredibly helpful. Okay. Yes, relieved. That's exactly right. Do you know how many people have said to me, guys, I did not know what to do until you called me? And humans have this, we have this very interesting ability with words to either make something empowering or we can make disempowering. And beliefs are just opinions that we've developed loyalty to over time. So one belief is, I can't call these people, somebody just died. The other belief is like, hey, I am a solution to their problem and I can really help them. It's my duty and obligation to call them, coming from a place of service. Does that make sense? Now, are you going to get maybe one or two people out of a bunch that will get angry? Yeah. I mean, I can't control that. What I'm aware of is expirers get angry, for sale by owners get angry. Like everybody gets angry, right? And a simple way to handle that is like, listen, my intention in reaching out to you is certainly not to be disrespectful. Instead, it's just to provide you with some information that could be helpful, useful. And in fact, we have a lot of homeowners just like you that when we do reach out, they're actually super appreciative because we know that it's an overwhelming process, both emotionally and practically. It sounds like you may not be one of them. And that's perfectly okay. My condolences for your family's loss. I wish you and your family the best of luck. And then hang up and move on. And it's also in like approach, like what are you saying initially? Like, hey, I heard Grandpa Jim died. Do you want to sell your property? Like, no, it's probably not going to work. Instead, having it sound something like, hi, my name is Aaron, and I'm a local real estate agent here in blank, wherever the property is located. My head researcher pointed out to me that very shortly, if not already, you will be appointed the personal representative in the, forgive my pronunciation, Cleveland estate. And I realize I do sincerely, Craig, that I may be a little premature in some way. I was calling you very respectfully, of course, simply just to find out if ultimately you and the rest of your siblings, looks like Susie and Jim, if you guys had decided that at some point you'd like to get that home on the market and to get it sold. All right. So all in approach, instantaneous. I'm saying who I am right out of the gate. I'm saying what it's about. They're going to know what it's about. And then I'm getting right to the point. And then also demonstrating emotional intelligence. I realize that I may be a little premature in some way. I was calling very respectfully, simply just to find out if ultimately the goal and objective of you and your family at some point, looks like Susie and Jim and the rest of your siblings, was to get that home on the market and to get it sold. Then be quiet. Now, when you do that, they're only going to give you a handful of responses like yes, no, or we're not sure yet. And that's okay. And then there's different places we can take it from there. But the main thing I want to address with you guys is, again, that like internal kind of belief that stops people. Okay. One is I can't call these people because someone just passed away. The other is no, I'm actually a solution to their problem. And I can provide them with all these ancillary services, take it off of their shoulders, put on ours, and make it as smooth and easy during a difficult time. So it's actually my duty and obligation to call them. To not do that would be selfish. Okay. The second one that I see people get caught up on is this idea that probate is a legal process and I'm afraid I'll make a mistake and mess something up. Right. I have a guy who is on my team. His name is Heath, and I taught him this. Okay. I taught him how to work this system. I taught him what to say and how to say it, taught him where to get the information, the whole thing. Right. And he did 20 plus listings last year in the calendar year 2023, all probate. And he has a full-time job, guys. He's a full-time cop, part-time real estate agent. Now, he came to me initially when we started to work on this. You know what he said to me? Hey, do I need to get certified? Do I need to become a probate certified agent? And I said, hey, bro, let me ask you a question. He's like, what? I'm like, am I probate certified? He's like, no. I'm like, yeah, and I would list 50 to 60 of these a year. So let me ask you a question. Is it necessary? You know what would actually cause you to learn the process much faster is iteration. So I think a lot of us, we read these books like Atomic Habits, and you're like, oh, it's 10,000 hours. But, well, the truth is it's not 10,000 hours. It's 10,000 iterations. It's just doing something over and over and over again. And that's how you figure it out. So we also need to keep in mind that we're just selling a real property. Like, we're not administering the probate. Like, we're not attorneys, right? So we're not going to be providing, any legal guidance, right? You're just helping them to sell. Now, is it important for you to understand the legal aspect of probate? 100%. Because you can add value that way. What I'm aware of is that most attorneys don't take the time to explain things. And oftentimes they really operate like subcontractors. So what they do is they throw a lot of, kind of business on the wall and hope that something sticks. So by you having an understanding of the legal aspect of probate, that can help you to provide guidance. Okay. It also teaches you the language that you need to know when having conversations with not only families, but also attorneys. So the way I like to describe that is that every game has its own language. And if I don't know the language, I can't play the game. So let's say in American football, there are things like holding. I don't know what that means, I can't play the game. Or things like offsides. If I don't know what that means, I can't play the game. Or things like intentional grounding, right? So every game has language. And if I don't know the language, I can't play the game, okay? And the way you can learn that language is there's a pro tip, okay? Is if you have a will or if you're planning on creating one, you can reach out to the person who drafted it for you and take them out to lunch and just ask them some questions about probate. Questions you want to ask is like, what's the first pleading called? What's the difference between testate and intestate, right? What are the homestead laws in this state, right? Who needs to sign listing agreements, like that sort of thing, okay? And if you don't have a will, if you didn't do that for yourself and your family, I suggest you do. But if you have not done that yet, just reach out to a probate attorney locally, take them out to lunch, or reach out to an estate planner so you can start to learn the language so that way you can play the game, okay? And the other thing I would propose or suggest is that you can watch, YouTube is this amazing library and it's like free, right? So you can watch YouTube videos where there's got to be attorneys in your state that explain the legal aspect of probate, kind of from start to finish. So there's different knowledge sets that are required. Again, one you have, hopefully, which is how to list and sell property, like kind of that process and how it works. Two is the legal aspect of probate. What's the language? How does it work procedurally? What needs to happen in order to be able to transact the real property? And when you combine those two things, you make yourself more valuable because anybody can help them sell the real property. But if you can help them to solve problems and navigate the legal aspect of probate and save them time and money based on, those recommendations, then you've just created value, okay? Where others are not. So it's really not that complex. And, again, we're just transacting the real property. Just make sure if you're ever giving anybody guidance, be like, listen, I'm not an attorney. At the same time, we facilitate a lot of these transactions. So here's my understanding, and then express what's true, right? Another one that I see people talk about a lot is this idea of worrying about, like, if I focus on just this niche, that I'm limiting myself in some way, right? And in fact, Heath came to me recently. We had a gala, for the elite builders at EXP. We had 150 agents flying from around the country. And he was telling me that, someone that was important to him in his life was like, hey, do you think you should only focus on this source? Don't you think you should diversify in some way? And what I shared with Heath is I'm like, look, man, I know that individual means well. I know that they're a loving person, but they're really projecting their fears onto you. And there's massive power in focus, massive. And what I see most agents do is they try to they become a jack of all trades and master at none. And that's not what I did. So when there was opportunity, it's very rare that the odds are heavily in your favor. Very rare. Okay. And if they are heavily in your favor, you should bet and bet heavily. So when I was selling real estate, 2008, 9, 10, marketplaces collapsing, there's an enormous amount of expired listings, like 200, 300 a day. The odds were tremendously in my favor. So what I did is I bet and I bet heavily. That was the only source that I called. And I crushed it. Again, 100 deals, 75 were expired listings. Well, this lead source is the same, where the odds are heavily in your favor. 65% of these homes are free and clear. And if they are motivated, the motivation's through the roof. So the odds are heavily in your favor. There's a high degree of probability that these people are going to want to do something. So I want to bet, and I want to bet heavily, okay? And not try to move away from it. I think that this is, and this is how I built it, right? So you want to have one source that's a niche that you can aggressively go after every day. So if you're going to be calling the expires, for sale by owners, cancels, all that's fine. You want to have one niche that is a life event that you can go after every day. And for me, it was probate, right? And again, the demand. So people might say well, there's not a lot of these, types of sales in my geographic area. Well, did you know that the average homeowner is 56 years old? And senior citizens, 65 and up, have the highest home ownership rate. It's 78.6%. Okay. Baby boomers, which are defined between the ages of 58 and 76, they comprised over 20% of the US population, but they account for almost 40% of all home ownership. And they're just going to be getting older. So there's this massive wave of estate sale and, probate that's coming. So if I'm going to choose a source, I want to choose a source again high degree of motivation, and again, homes are free and clear, but there's also this tsunami, like there's this wave of people that are getting older and are going to have to, their families are going to have to dispose of the real property. I don't think that's debatable. So, part of accumulating wealth, it requires 4 things. One is specialized knowledge. And that's what we're talking about here today. The specialized knowledge of this particular niche, like where to get the data, where to get the information from, what to say and how to say it. What are the common objections, right? How to create ancillary services so you can make this like a legitimate source. That's the first thing you need. The second thing you need are tools. Tools would be things like a course that you could watch that would teach you how to do it. Tools would be things like, a CRM that you can put the data in once you've compiled it so you can text and send bomb videos, right? Those are tools. The third thing you need is leverage. Leverage, perhaps like I do, I have somebody go to the courthouse to collect the data instead of these third-party vendors that do it, like US Probate leads or all the leads. The problem with those sources is that they only give you the data once a month. And that's like calling old expires, right? People have been kind of hammered already. The second thing is that the data is not complete. They only give you the person representative or the executor, the person who's in charge of the estate. They don't give you all of the beneficiaries. And I've listed countless properties where I can't get a hold of the person representative, but I get a hold of the family members. And then they give me contact information and we end up listing the property, right? Sending people to get the data, right? But this is all like, and that would be leverage. That's labor, right? Capital, you're spending money, you're putting money behind some of this stuff. Media, you start to like market and let people know that this is a segment of the population that you serve, right? But you also need good judgment. That's the fourth thing you need. And judgment is about what's best for the long term. So if you're going to stack your time on a particular skill, you want to make sure that it compounds, gets bigger as time progresses. With those statistics that I just gave you with regards to home ownership and regards to the baby boomers and all that stuff, ask yourself a question. What's the probability that this source is going to continue to keep getting bigger as time progresses? It's very high. Couple that with the fact it's a blue ocean and very few people focus on it. You add those two things up and yeah, this makes sense to stack time on top of, right? And the barrier to entry is a little higher. Again, I have to have a little bit of specialized knowledge. I have to get over these internal beliefs that stop people, right? So it's got all of the kind of recipe for a fantastic opportunity. A, there's internal kind of beliefs and fears that stop people from doing it. B, it requires specialized knowledge, which again, you can't learn that in school. And C, it's got demographics on my side. It's just going to keep getting bigger as time progresses. So, hey, if I want to make sure that I list property in high volume, I think this is a fantastic place to be focused. Okay. Now, another thing that I see that comes up for people is this idea that there's like it's like less glamorous. It's like not sexy. They're like, oh, you like call dead people or their families. And, I don't know if you've ever seen that show, I forgot what it is, but about like dirty jobs, I think it is, right? And these people who clean out septic tanks and make like $10 million a year, or people who clean up crime scenes and make like $10 million a year, people have pig farms and make like, $8 million a year. I think people would rather own 3 businesses that make no money than one that does. And I think people would rather look good than make money. We sold a property for a homeowner. They had like 3 offers on the table from, wholesalers, investor types. We ended up getting them $50,000 more. We didn't do a thing, didn't change a thing. And what was wild is once the investor found out that we were in the picture, they raised their offer, but we still did better than them. And the owner was super pleased. They also try to feed him this nonsense that like it's going to take long. That's not true. We sold that property in a week, right? So again, I see us in this scenario as the white hat, where we can insert ourselves into the situation, offer support both practically and emotionally, equip them with local vendors that they could assist, that can assist with helping them, prepare the property, clear out contents, guide them while stipulating that I'm not an attorney, but I can provide you with, some guidance that could be helpful or useful, because we facilitate these all the time in a manner that helps them to save time and money. So you're adding tremendous amounts of value. And with these NAR changes, like that's really what's happening, is the marketplace is just demanding that you add more value. And if you can, you'll be disproportionately rewarded for your efforts. For me, this became a 50 to 60 deal a year thing, like all day long, right? What's also true is it opens up the opportunities for other things, where if somebody says to you adamantly, I just want a cash offer. Okay, Like, we can do that. Just with the explanation that is, if we put on the open market, we'd be able to get more money. Like, you're clear on that? Yeah, I don't care. I just want cash. Okay, well, we can facilitate that. The other thing is like, kind of the ethical concerns, like you're profiting from like, I don't know, like an estate. And again, I think in the absence of value, that would be an issue. But if you're tremendously adding value, it's perfectly fine. Another example comes to mind is we had a client that they lived in Ohio. Property was down here. Brother passed away, completely full of contents. 3-car garage with cars in it. I met her at the property one time, cold called her, and then met her at the property one time. Had my estate sale person clear out the entire house, including the garage. He put the cars in a truck with the contents in the garage and drove it back to Ohio. And then we put the home on the market and we sold it. That's tremendous value, guys. That's problem solving. So that's how you have to approach this, right? From a place of collaboration and trying to solve problems. Now, the challenge with this source is, again, where do I get the data from? Do I get it from the third-party vendors or do I get it from the courthouse? Where do I get phone numbers? Because that's also a challenge, right? To make sure that the information is accurate, and to make sure that there's a high hit rate, right? When I'm reaching out to people. Where do I put the data once I get it? So that way, if it's just me calling, great. But if I have other people that are helping me, like VAs or like other individuals, like, where does that go? And then also, perhaps most importantly, is what to say and how to say it. Because what I'm aware of is I can give two people, let's say somebody gives me probate leads, no matter where they're from, and somebody gives somebody else the same probate leads. I know for a fact, the way the sky is blue and the grass is green, I will set more appointments than somebody else who doesn't know what to say and how to say it. And the specific track on how to figure that out. You know what I mean? So like, in other words, I kind of alluded to that when you give that opening, which is like, hi, my name is Aaron. I'm a local real estate agent here in blank. And I was reaching out to you because my head researcher pointed out to me that very shortly, if not already, you will be the personal representative in the blank estate. And I realize, I do sincerely that I may be a little premature in some way. I was calling very respectfully, of course, with regards to the real property up 1265 Banana Street, simply just to find out if you and the rest of your family had ultimately decided at some point you'd like to get on the market and get it sold, and then be quiet. And I shared with you that they're going to go 3 places with that. Yes, no, we're not sure. So where do you go from there? What do you say and how do you say it? Right? Because that's the difference between you booking appointments and not. It's the difference between you making calls for 6 months and being like, oh, this isn't working, to actually becoming deals. And I'll share with you how powerful this is. I have a coaching client one-on-one. His name is Paul. I shared with Paul this particular strategy, and I started to coach him individually on how to do it, where to get the data, what to say and how to say it, was role-playing with him, things of that nature. And for the first, 30, 60 days, I don't know, man, I'm calling people. I don't know. I'm like, just stick with it, bro. Because this business is 60 to 90 day cycle. So just stick with it. Well, would you know, the first listing he took, he double-ended it and made $45,000. What also ended up happening is we did a business review at the end of the calendar year for him. And at the end of the calendar year, 75% in 2023 of all of his business was directly correlated either from listings that he listed that were probate or from signed calls from those probate listings that wouldn't have came if he didn't have the listing. 75%. So most agents last year, their volume dropped dramatically because, the market volume dropped 19 to 30% depending on geographic areas. And he did the same than he did the year previous. All because he decided to pivot, all because he decided to make a commitment to learn what to say and how to say it to this particular source, all because he decided to make himself more valuable, all because he got over these internal stumbling blocks, right? These internal limiting beliefs, internal and external limiting beliefs. So what I'm aware of is I feel compelled, guys, to share with you this source that has been like so beneficial for me and my family. Okay. And what I'm aware of is time to work with me individually, one-on-one. That's super limited. And, it's out of a lot of people's reach, from a resources perspective. So I wanted to come up with a way that I could equip everybody with these skill sets. So what I've done is I've created a course that from start to finish, I will give you very clearly where to get the data from. I give you examples of the courthouse where I'm showing you what the data and the information is and what you want to be getting when you're there, if you choose to go that route. My suggestion would be to do that because you can control the data and it's more complete, right? And you want it to actually be a little bit of a pain in the ass because less people will do it. We do that in 3 different counties. The second thing I share with you is the software that we use to get contact information and phone numbers. Okay. The third thing is we walk you through the workflow of how we input that into Follow Up Boss, which is the CRM that we use, and how we can create templates. We can pivot into specifically what to say and how to say it, right? And I will go through with you the same thing that I taught Heath, right? That track of where to go and how to get there and what to say and how to say it. I will go through with you all of the objections that you're going to hear, okay? And again, the reason that this is different from other, kind of courses stuff is because I've actually done it, man. I listed 50 to 60 of these every single year for 5 years in a row. So I'll give you what to say and how to say it, all of the objections that are going to come up, and how to handle them, okay? So you can navigate that. Also, pro tips on how you can get in front of people and get listing agreements signed before the probate process is complete, and what language you need to put in the additional terms and conditions of the purchase and sales agreement to do that, and how to schedule Zoom appointments with families, right? Prior to them coming down. Because oftentimes what that process, how that works out is they want to come down and get personal effects and personal, like, things that have sentimental value, and then, proceed. And I will give you my specific pro tip on how to get in front of them beforehand and get a listing agreement signed before they even come down. It was not uncommon for me to have 10, 12 listing agreements signed waiting to come on the market for sale. Okay. And all of that is in one place. So Heath got to role play with me like a couple times a week. You'll get to role play with me as often as you want, as much as you want. Okay. And I know it works based on results. Again, Heath did 20 deals last year, all probate listings, and he's part-time. He's a full-time cop in Pembroke Pines, Florida. Now, to make this deal even more silly is I'm also going to provide you with another course that I have, which is, it's called the 7 Skills Bundle, that teaches you what to say and how to say it for expireds, for sale by owners, cancels, the pre-qualification and what questions to ask prior to going on the appointment, the actual listing appointment that I used to list over 100 homes a year for 10 years in a row. And I'm going to include that as well. And I'm so convinced, guys, that this will cause your business to explode. I know that the challenge with your business exploding is that then it becomes a systems thing. So as I help you to do more transactions and do more deals, your systems start to fall apart, right? And when systems start to fall apart, you can only grow to the proportion that your systems will allow you to, okay? So having things like listing coordinators, transaction coordinators, workflow, you start listing 4 of these a month, which Heath has done December and January, all probate listings. Then you need systems in place to be able to service all of that business. So to make this even more of a no-brainer, I'm going to include the systems course that we have that my wife, Carla, who's our operations manager and ran, the operations side of the business, processed all 2,000 transactions with me. She shares with you our workflows. She shares with you all of our checklists, everything that you could possibly need to grow and scale, your real estate business. So not only will you get the probate course with, again, where to get the data, where to get the contact information, what to say and how to say it, specific objections and how to handle them, how to pre-qualify those listing appointments before you go on them, because there's some slight different questions you need to ask before you go on a probate listing appointment to ensure that, who the beneficiaries are, who's going to be authorizing documentation, where they are in the process, is everybody on the same page? Very specific things that you're going to need that's going to save you a tremendous amount of time, okay? And again, all of the objections that you're going to come up with. Also, the 7 Skills Bundle on specifically what to say and how to say it. And for expireds, for sale by owners, for the pre-qualification, for the actual listing presentation, how to present offers once you get offers on the table, because I'm going to need to know that, not just list these things, but actually sell them. And then the systems course, which will give you everything that you need, all of our workflows. We did over 100 deals a year, 10 years in a row, and did 200 deals a year twice. Now, normally all of that combined, guys, all of it together is a value of $2,500. No, I'm sorry, it's $3,000, all combined. And because you guys hung out today, and I want you to be clear, this is only good for the next 48 hours, okay? Today and Sunday, and then it disappears. So if you guys want to take advantage of this deal, we're going to drop a link. And for today and for today only, there it is. The link is in the chat right there. For today and today only, all of that together is going to be $1,000. It's $999. So I think that that's, an incredible value proposition. I wanted to make it super easy for you guys to, make a decision to really equip yourself. I can tell you emphatically that I have poured my purse into my head, and it's been the thing that has paid the biggest dividend. Once I learn knowledge, nobody can ever take that away from me. And I need specialized knowledge in order to produce the outcomes that I want. And this is equipping you with the specialized knowledge you need to, again, become a sales assassin, to understand the sales process, to be able to overcome objections when they come up, to be able to list properties with people that you don't know, to be able to have a niche because the riches are in the niches, and really support you in that process. So again, I'm super excited for you guys. I'm super excited for you kind of, taking advantage of this opportunity. I'm super excited for the time that we're heading into, because wherever there's disruption in the market, somebody makes a lot of money. I want you to be one of those people who make a lot of money. We're here to support you. We're here to, help you in any way possible. Check out our live streams that we do on Fridays, equipping agents with what to say and how to say it. Check out our role play groups that we have, again, on Wednesdays, like live role play, equipping people with the skills that they need. Because when times get tough, only the skilled get paid, team. When times get tough, only the skilled get paid. Eddie asked the question, does that include your monthly coaching program? No, that's separate. I'm in. What's up, Casey? That's what I'm talking about. Casey's in. Appreciate you. It's a great deal. You should take advantage of it. You should jump on it for show. Again, it only lasts until it's 48 hours. Okay. Sunday, it disappears. It's no longer a thing. And again, what you're getting with you get the probate course, you get the 7 skills bundle, and then you also get the systems course. All of that together is it's like $3,500. So today it's $999. Again, I want to make it super easy for you. I want to equip you with everything that you need so you could be as successful as possible. Check out our content. My intention is, guys, this business has been incredibly beneficial for me and my family. And my intention is to equip, the next generation of agents to be as successful as they possibly can. And that's the goal and objective. So again, team, I'm super appreciative of the opportunity to serve. Hopefully this has been helpful, useful to you in some way, maybe help you overcome some of those limiting beliefs that may be present, that get in the way of, making this a lead source that is, one of those pillars for you in your business. Again, it's market resistant. It's independent of market conditions, independent of interest rates, and people need our help. So let's go help them. Appreciate you guys. Let's go be great. I'll talk to you soon.